modern drawing, Schiele would have been a different artist. The way Schiele achieved his style was based off of what Rodin had done 50 years earlier, which Rodin describes as contour drawing of a live moving model. The result is an expressive and instantaneous drawing. By 1912, it is clear that Schiele has developed a style which heavily incorporates contour line. Now, stepping away from Rodin's influence, Schiele begins to incorporate the theme of rendering the model naked rather than nude. This results in his drawings becoming invasive and cutting close to the bone. The difference between the idea of an academic nude versus the idea of a naked model. There's a sense of reveal that the model is not in their natural state when they are naked, as opposed to when they're posing for a nude. What I see when I look at his work, especially in his earlier years, are overly sexualized poses, and it's almost like the model is performing a sex act for the drawer. An example of the overly sexualized model is seen in Semi-Nude Girl with Red Hair from 1917, which is a gouache and black crayon drawing, which depicts a woman posing with her face down and bum in the air. The traditional poses of sitting, front, and profile views are reimagined as women fondling their breasts, face down, and masturbatory. There's a feeling of voyeurism. When looking at Schiele's self-portraits, they are still sexualized, but they are confronting the viewer and holding their gaze. They are different from his drawings of women because the women are objectified through our viewing in a way that Schiele's self-portraits are not. Even when he's lying back, holding his phallus, he still does not appeal to the male gaze. Other controversial areas of Schiele's work involve his interest in the expression of the adolescent body. He thought it captured the ethereal bodily ideals of the Viennese secessionist movement. However, Schiele was charged with the abduction and sexual abuse of a minor. This incident became known as the Neckenbach affair. His charges were later acquitted, but he was kicked out of his art school as a result. After this moment, his drawings begin to feel more sinister. Schiele was also interested in depicting the mentally ill in their suffering. Through an acquaintance, Ewan von Graft, a gynecologist, he was able to do several drawings of pregnant and sick women and girls in a Vienna women's hospital. These portraits went against the refined female portraiture at the time, depicting young women as decaying, ill, or close to death. His fascination with death constantly interacted with his urgent concern with sex. This is evident through these portraits and shows the tension between the two. These portraits make sense as in the Viennese expressionist movement that Schiele was participating at the time, there was a fascination with the aesthetics of hysteria. The publication Iconographie Photographie de la Sapetière between 1876 and 1880 provided documentation of hysteric symptoms in women, which were seen as catalogs displaying female bodies' most expressive positions. These publications became early references for artists depicting performance and body art. While researching Schiele for this video, I noticed that once again biographers were writing about Schiele, and they tended to spin the narrative surrounding the themes that came up in his paintings and drawings. They recognized elements of sex and death. Biographer Patrick Werkner even notes that Schiele was known to abduct children. He would invite children to play in his studio, and then he would have them pose nude. But it is downplayed as a silly mistake that had no deeper sinister intent. The many portraits of women Schiele drew were voyeuristic, something that Werkner notes as a common theme of Viennese expressionist movement. Biographers argue that because Schiele includes their faces, he's subverting the misogynistic voyeurism that is imperial to Vienna culture at the time. In the study, Fertility and Domination in Early 20th Century Vanguard Painting by Carol Duncan, she argues that the art of the Fauves and the German Expressionists depict male domination over the objectified naked women, who are shown as powerless, often faceless, and passive available flesh. This is what a lot of Chile's work reads as to me. He does include faces of women, but they are still portrayed as sexual and decaying. Even though he gives them identity through their faces, he poses them as objects, appealing to male sexual fantasies. He also is praised for giving them character by depicting them as eerie and close to death, which still isn't evidence that he's not conforming to misogynistic ideals. He is still the master of the narrative he's creating through this portraiture. Female subjects still do not have autonomy. As a result of the Viennese Expressionist movement, mainstream society in the 1960s, which holds similar ideals about depictions of youth as representative of change and new growth. And because obviously women can never escape the ruling thumb of male supremacy, the adolescent model and her body type is cast as the beauty standard for women. Holding similarities to Chile's portrait, women are now idolized as young, thin, and sexually attractive. Overall, I think Chile was an unconventional artist who was breaking norms during this time, but his work is still influenced by his patriarchal culture, even when he's trying to break free from it.